Done. Okay. So, who's here? Let's
Oh,
see.
no, maybe he's at the bonfire.
Oh, tonight's the, what do you call it?
What's wrong? Not tonight. And then you get the haircut.
Who's here, Mars? Can you see?
Mark Dweck.
Yeah.
And who's the other one?
Maybe Eli Benny.
Oh, maybe it's Eli. No.
My dad,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
Eli.
yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So we ended off last week with a discussion on what's the matter?
Sure.
You want to make me
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Anyway.
So we ended off with explaining kashrut, and we showed you how Bnei Belial, right? Talked about that, feeds off of Ireni Dahat, and Ireni Dahat, between Ireni Dahat and kashrut, right? You have two of the elements, right? Only with in the Torah, it's not. It's you go to the house that gets destroyed after, right? That comes subsequent to kashrut. You have the yoledet in between, and then you end off with zav and zavat, which we call laws related to that result from sexual promiscuity. The two main sections, right? Zab and zavat. Genital emissions out of not in the norm are almost entirely due to promiscuity and a form of venereal disease. I could say almost. I'm not a doctor, but almost every time you see genital emissions is because of promiscuity. Now, in Devarim, if you want to hold your place for a second, and you turn to let's say 14, where we were talking about. I'd like to, in the course of the coming classes, I don't know if it'll hit tonight, talk about how everything that we're reading is building off, like the same way that I showed you that Devarim is the source for the Shemuel story when she says, "No, I'm not a bat Belial." I spoke about that last week.
Yes.
And his sons are the Bnei Belial. By the way, just as a side point, it's hard to not think about when you hear the word Belial. I'm not saying I'm necessarily correct. It's hard not to think of the fact that his name is Eli.
Belial.
Right?
Yeah.
Eli, his name is Ayin Lamed Yud. And Belial is Bet Lamed Yud Ayin Lamed. Right? You know, like Eli's kids are Belial, right? It's like, I'll say it like this. It's almost like too good a midrash. You know what I mean? It's like almost tempting you to look at the words and say that they seem to be playing off of each other.
Despite the major flaw in his life that his kids were a disaster, he was a good man. Eli.
Yes, of course. He is. We say more than that. That's all. His kids are Belial. He's Eli. They're without, so to speak. If I make a nice midrash, it's Belial, right? They're opposite of what their father is. By the way, I want to tell you something nice related to that. This is going to go from related to. If you'll take a look at the story of in Shemuel Aleph for a minute, I want to tell you something that I spoke about today when I was talking about all the way to the very beginning of Shemuel Aleph. Today I was on with Rabbi Ralphie, who, by the way, is in Eilat with his family. They go once a year for a vacation. They go the week before Pesach. they couldn't go this year because it was raining for 5 days straight in Eilat. So they canceled the trip and they went this week. They're in a mansion with 8 bedrooms, the entire family. You know, in those Florida mansions that you can rent, take your whole family. They have a place like that in Eilat. So it's very pretty, really, really nice. And that's where he was. And Joey Angel and Joey Namath came here. And I was talking to them about Shemuel. I'll take a minute to speak about this. It's worth it. So I told them that I'm going to tell you the upshot of what I spoke, because Joey Angel tells me I told him what Hannah's husband's name was and why it was his name. You'll see it says Vehi ish echad min aramatayim sofim. We're in Shemuel. For those of you online, Shemuel 1:1, opening words of the book. Vehi ish echad min aramatayim sofim had Ephraim. Ushmo Elkanan ben Yeraham ben Elihu ben Tohu ben Suf Ephraiti. And he has 2 wives, Shema Hat Hana v'Shema Shanit Penina. Vehi lifnina Yeladim Hana en Yeladim. She didn't have any children. V'Shema Ishahu Meiro V'Ala Ishahu Meiro Naimim Yamima L'Shtahavod V'Zbal Adonai Tzvot B'Shilo Shem Shnei B'nei Eli Hufni V'Nhas Kohanim L'Adonai. So you are being given a massive amount of information here, but you don't realize how much you're being given. And nobody, I can say this, Joey was there at the session, nobody is aware of what I'm about to tell you. When I say that, I mean literally. And it's really, really nice, because when I tell you what imagery you're supposed to have, it's very interesting. You are supposed to, when you read this, put yourself in let your imaginative faculties go. Instead of like the scholars going, oh, he was an Ephraimite, he came from there, and then all they're little caught up in the details, so to speak, right? Back to that, you can't see the forest from the trees. You're supposed to realize that Hannah's husband's name is Elkanah. Her father-in-law's name, her father-in-law's name is Rahum, and her name is Hanun. So right away, you're supposed to go like this. Oh, she's married, her husband's Elkanah, her father-in-law's name is Hanun, so it's Elkanah, etc., etc., etc. Rahum Hanun, right? So the story is telling you about, when you hear the words Elkanah, what do you think of Mars? Etc., etc., right? Right? Hashem is El Rahum V'Hanun Erech Apayim V'Rachesed V'Noseres V'Noseres, right? Right? V'Nakil, right? Etc. So you're supposed to think about that and go, oh, isn't that amazing? Between her and her father-in-law's Rahum V'Hanun. But go back 1 generation and think about who her husband's
Grandfather.
Different.
Elkanah's his, no, that's her husband's
I
name.
know. We thought you were interpreting it differently. Elkanah, jealous God, or whatever.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, it's taken right out of the Elkanah and Pokei Avot and Elahum Hanun, right under there. Now, now her father.
That's what I was saying. He's not saying it.
He's jealous. That's,
I mean, it's a good attribute.
well, no, that's why he spoke it up.
I understand. I didn't say it doesn't mean Elkanah. I meant that you thought I was emphasizing a different aspect of it. I thought you were saying.
Yeah.
That's what I took it for granted. You meant that, and I was saying no. It's saying he's Elahum the Hanun, and his punishment is limited, right? To the 4th generation, they go free. Now, but who? So Joey Angel asks me, but who are the other people? So I said, if you look very carefully, number 1, you know that the priest she's gonna meet, who is gonna think she's drunk, right? His name is Eli. Now in Hebrew, we see, for example, in the 88th Mizmor, that the Navi uses the Aleph and the Ayin interchangeably to talk about Oni, to talk about agony and suffering. And the fact of the matter is that, only a little bit of a joke, the Ashkenazim, of course, don't say that that's true, because they don't know the difference between an Aleph. They go Aleph, they go Eli, right? The priest. We go Eli, right? But even when you do it with the guttural sound, right, from the back of the throat, it's still a sound, right? It's Eli or Eli, but Sammy, correct? Whatever you're going to say, it's a sound. So you can in Tehillim, he goes out of his way to say when he says Ani, Annie. You know, I'm an Ani, and he's playing on Oni, and he says Annie, and he's using it because even thousands of years ago, if you pronounced it, even if you pronounced it correctly, the bottom line is this is an Aleph sound, but coming from the back of your throat, with the over here with the throat, but it's still an Aleph sound.
Is the phrase for those that you don't use your tongue and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Is it so? That's
Yeah, it's all that. Yeah, exactly. So now, when you see Elihu, you say Elihu. So she's going to meet up with priest whose name is Eli, and her father-in-law's, her grandfather-in-law, her husband's grandfather, his name is Elihu, right? And then, so Joey goes, well, who's Tohu and Vasuf? Now, nobody has the foggiest idea who they are, but I want to point out something terrific to you. The minute you read the word Suf, and you know it's Ephrati, two things are. First of all, he's from Ephrat, he's not a priest.
Right.
You know, of course, they have to change that and say that there were Kohanim living in Ephrat, right? Because he's not a Kohen, right? And he's he's.
Oh, you mean for Shemuel later on?
For here.
He's bringing Korban to the thing. He's going to Shiloh. Why?
Wait. The when you're going to read about Eli now, right? When you listen, oh my God, you're really in a fog, right? Right?
Now, who said Lee, by the way, that we already know his sons before we know him?
Right.
Yeah.
Have you mentioned that?
No, not at all.
No,
So
The first mention you get him is his son.
So yeah, and it goes out of its way to say, and you know who's located over there? Shnei bnei Eli hofniu Pinchas Kohanim Le'Adonai. What's that about in the story? And you know who's there? The two sons of Eli. What about Eli? Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
I think we mentioned him before.
right.
It doesn't say that he's there. That's the thing. Yeah.
So just now listen carefully.
He's not really the son.
Whenever I see Suf, I think of a vision. It's a visionary. And when I see generations, I count. Suf is one, the great-great-grandfather with Suf.
Right.
Tohu is three. Elihu, sorry, I said it wrong. Suf is one. Tohu is two. Elihu is three. And Yeroham is the fourth generations. That's when you get Rahum v'Hanun and you have Elkanah, right? So the question is, why is his name Suf? So I say it means that's a vision. That word reminds you of.
Sorry.
How you doing, Lee? That's why we're hearing echoes, right? Yeah. When you hear the name Suf, right? Or Sofer, they used to call him Sofer, the guy who sees, right? Sees. He's a visionary, let's say. So, but if you want to really see how explicit the text is, it says, you know where he comes from? There was a man that had min haramatayim sofim. You know what ramatayim sofim means? Ramatayim means the highest level of the visionaries. you never realize that the name of the place is Sofim. And you go back on the generations and it tells you, you know what his name was? Suf. So if you're now you could ask me, you mean to say people don't notice this? Right? So Rabbi Ralphie and Joey and she goes, no one ever saw this ever. Like, I go, no, they don't know it.
It's right there online.
But once you see it, now, you know why people don't see it? I just wanted to tell you because we've been talking about having prophetic, when you're in the world of the Navi and you have to let your imaginative faculties flow. How, how do you look at the story? Well, if you know that the story tells you about a woman whose husband is Elkanah and whose father-in-law is Rahum, and her name is Hanun, you're expected to go like this. Oh my God, Elkanah, Elahum Hanun. You're supposed to say that to yourself and say that this story, of course, is functioning on a dual level. And it should be, now I'm going to say be a little bit wise, it should be right in your face. No one ever saw this ever. Ever. But you know why? You get caught up going like this. You know, what's his name? Where's he from? Who's his father? Stop. Let the story, let free associate when you're reading it. Remember you're reading Nevuah. Remember it's multi-layered. Remember that the messages are very, 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 very potent. How potent? To the extreme. So then you go, oh, Elkanah, Hanun. Oh, you look at the generations. And then you go, Suf. Well, Suf, the name of he's from? He's from Ramatayim, the epitome of the visionaries. Now, when you hear that, you're supposed to say to yourself this: who are Rahel's children? When the Navi cries, Yirmiyah is so emotional when he remembers, right? When he remembers um, uh, uh, the north, when he says Haben Yakirli Ephraim, right? He gets very emotional when he thinks of Ephraim. Well, what was Ephraim? It was the center, main place of the prophetic vision of the nation all the time. And if you read Nevi'im, if you read Yeshua, Shemuel, Melachim, etc., and you realize that there was, from the commentary that I have on 76, that who's that about? Elisha, right? Who's it talking about? Elisha and Yehoiada. Now, Yehoiada in the south is an amazing priest, right? He's the Kohen. He's not the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol and the other Kohanim are losers over there. And he's an outstanding individual. Amazing. And he does fantastic things, but he's not a prophet. But he's amazing. He changes the whole course of the nation, makes the B'nai. He does absolutely spectacular things.
Dabi Hudan.
No, that be that. You say Gadol Shemuel. And so that's Elisha. So, but where's the prophetic center? Yosef. Yosef is the leader of the nation. Just start at the very beginning. Yosef is the prophet of the Torah, the visionary, right? And then who do you know? Eliyahu Hanavi and Elisha and so on and so forth. So you know what it's telling you? It's telling you Ramatayim Sofim. You know where this comes from? The epitome of the visionaries, right? That's when you say it. So you go back and say, oh, Suf, right? And when you say there was a person from Ramatayim Sofim, it means, you know what his heritage is?
Pretty good.
His heritage is Ramatayim means like the Rama in spades, right? Right? The Ramatayim, the highest level of the Sofim, right? And that's representative of the Northern Kingdom. And of course, Efrat is the center of the Northern Kingdom. When you say Efrat, you're talking about that's the capital. There's Yehuda and Ephraim, right? Ephraim are the leaders, not Menashe, right? Yaakov makes the arm switch and he says he's going to be the guy, and what you're being told over there, He's going to be the leader, not Menashe's brother. Yeah, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, Yirmiyahu Lamed Aleph has a pasuk that says Kol Berama Nishma, and it says
He b'chit habrurim.
right.
Right, it's the Ramah.
Rachel
She refuses to be consoled.
So is this place that he's referring to
Mhm.
similar to Ramatayim?
Certainly, conceptually, it is, right?
Sounds
Right,
like.
not physically.
So, because he's talking about the end, he's talking about the destruction. She refuses to be consoled. She sees him going out into exile. Right? Then he tells her, "Meni kolech mebechi v'nayich medivna ki yesh sachar lefulotech." And right,
Yeah.
right. He tells her, "Don't cry. Hold your right. Yes, there's great hope for you." And they're going to come back. And these are the beginning, of course, it's the beginning of the 4 chapters. It's at the beginning of the 4 chapters of constellation that you see from Yirmiyah that are mind blowing, 30 through 33.
That's where the pasuk that you just said, Haben Yakid Li'Ephraim.
That's right. That's the next words he says after that. That's correct. Yeah.
Hannah is Rachel, basically. In that she's the loved one who doesn't have kids.
Right.
She has.
That's right. That's right. And now she's going to have the child who is going to be known as the prophet of the nation. She is going to produce. How do we know that? I've said this before. You probably don't remember. When you see how does Yirmiyah in the 99th Mizmor refer to Shemuel in the about 8th verse? Moshe v'Aaron b'Kohanav,
They both came.
Ushmuel b'Koreh Shemo.
Right.
Moshe, you mentioned the greatest prophet of all time, and then you go Ushmuel b'Koreh Shemo. They call out in his name. In other words, he's a era changer. He's a paradigm shift in his life. It's a paradigm shift. How big? You say it in 2 names in the same sentence, right? You know, Moshe and Shemuel.
Doesn't he say if you bring Shemuel and Moshe and Shemuel, I won't care at one point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Yirmiyah,
Yeah.
in chapter, he's going to say,
As well.
bring both of them before me.
I could kill
So
it.
why Moshe and Shemuel? Why not bring Moshe and somebody else, right? Because that's the most potent.
This shifts away from Mishkan. You don't see Mishkan involved in Shemuel's time until they build the Beit HaMikdash.
Correct. Well, Shiloh.
It gets destroyed.
No, Shiloh is going to get destroyed.
And then the whole shift is away from that central. You don't see much of it in the rest of
Because Shemuel is going to turn say
right.
to the monarchy.
Right.
That's what the reality is going to happen.
Against his will.
You're going to, of course, against his will.
Right. So the monarchy supersedes the Kehuna.
Well, not sure disease, but overrides it.
Well, no, it becomes, yeah, the monarchy becomes,
Yeah.
It's a shift from
Yeah.
Mishkan too. We don't see it until David decides he wants to build a temple, a big for Hashem. We don't see any Mishkan. He never goes to Mishkan to pray.
Right.
There's nothing.
Right. It's taken for granted that there's a Mishkan till it's built.
So they wiped out the Kohanim. That's it.
No. It's taken for granted there's a Mishkan because when Hashem blasts him out, he says, "Did I ever tell you I have a problem living in the curtains?" Right?
Yeah.
There's a Mishkan. It's a Mishkan that's not the Shiloh Mishkan, but there's a Mishkan.
Right.
Because it does not it's not emphasized. It's not where the focus is. The focus is going to be on what's going on.
With the kings. Yeah.
Yes, but that said, back to what I was saying. So when you know that was the center of prophecy of the nation, that was where the spiritual driving force of the nation from the Nevi'im comes from. Well, it's all north, right? So when you look at those words, you're supposed to look at it and say, it's Ramatayim Sofim. It is the way it's the equivalent of saying the epitome of the Sofim.
Mhm.
And her husband's, right? Her father-in-law's great-grandfather? Which one is it? Her father-in-law. Who's Suf? Her father-in-law's great-grandfather and her husband's great-great, right?
Her husband's great.
3 greats for the husband.
2, 3. Suf is the 4th.
So her father-in-law is Yeroham,
Grandfather is Eliyahu.
His grandfather is Elihu. His great grandfather, it's his great great grandfather, right? Right. That's how you end up for. Right. So it's his great great. So husband's great 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 grandfather, right? Right. Triple because then it would be Elkanah, Yeroham, Elihu, Tohu. I said husband.
Yoram is the father, Eliyahu is the grandfather, Tohu is the great grandfather, Sup is the great great grandfather.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not Yoram, it's Yeroham.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. So right away, you're being told in this story about people from Ramatayim Sofim, the core of the nation's prophetic spiritual leadership, all the way back to Suf, so to speak, right? Which, of course, is reflecting on the Sofim, no accident. And he has two wives. And like you said, it makes you think of the barrenness, right? And then he is going to she's in her state that she's in, and we've talked about it in the past that he thinks that she's drunk, and he's sitting at the chair at the entrance to the Mishkan. Be aware of the fact that the destruction of Shiloh, when Yirmiyah says this story about this and says Jerusalem is going to become like Shiloh in chapter 7, they want to kill him because it's referring to a place that centuries later, Ralphie said it good, from George Washington's time, it's a Horban, never rebuilt. The devastation, it's like a Holocaust that took place. So you're looking at Jerusalem here, looking at the Beit HaMikdash, and he tells them this place is going to be like that. You can't say anything more devastating and more of a criticism. So when they tell him, how dare you talk like that, and they tell him they want to kill him for it, he says, but that's the reality. And that is what happened. And that, in fact, is what happened. And it did get destroyed, right? So I just wanted you to see that as a sort of a backdrop to what's going on in our story, because remember, this story is going to take us directly. Its commentary is going to reflect on Nadav and Avihu, and we see in the story of Nadav and Avihu's death is followed by Yain v'Shechar al Tesht, followed by eating food with Moshe, did you eat it and no, and so on and so forth. And Hayta b'nei Hashem, we said last week.
Yeah.
Hayta b'nei. And when Eli hears from the prophet Shemuel, the young prophet, right? He tells Shemuel, don't leave one word out, right? In chapter 3, verse 18. I want to know exactly what you heard. That's his first prophecy. And he tells him, Eli's words, when he hears, what does he hear? He hears these words. Verse 13. V'gati lo, I'm in Shemuel 1, chapter 3, verse 13. V'gati lo, the Navi, right? He's getting a prophecy, Shemuel. That Shemuel doesn't want to tell Eli these words. Ki shofet ani et beto, I'm going to judge his household for eternity, right? Ad olam ba'avon asher yada ki mikalelim lahem benav. He knew his sons were mikalelim. Now you see that word, Sami mikalelim. Don't look at the English translation. What does it mean?
Curses.
Yeah, it's from the.
But it's not, right? Look at the English translation, Joe. Huh? Right? What do you have, Joe?
Will be 13.
Yeah.
Should be iniquity that he knew,
Keep reading.
that his sons made themselves vile.
Right. See, they didn't say curse.
It's the same. It
Now-
all fits the same.
Now, that word Mikalim has a subtlety in it over here. Watch. Velochiam, Velachin Ishbavik, it bid one bid reserve and Adulam, and that's the end of it. I'm going to come back to this statement of that Mikallel statement. That you hear about, and you hear the Eli's reaction. Hashem hu hatov be'enav yaseh. You can't help but think of when Moshe tells him, "Hu asher diber b'krobai akadesh al kol pe'am ekabed." You can't help but forget that when the minute that Nadav and Avihu, nobody, I don't see faces of recognition.
I know what it means, but
Please.
I don't see the connection yet.
We discussed this. This should all be pashut to you. So his reaction is Vaydom Aharon. Now Vaydom is the equivalent of God does what is good in his eyes. But now Aharon is in 2 seconds after Vaydom Aharon. He's going to be with Hayitab ben Hashem. There's the words Hayitab ben Hashem. God does it right. And the answer is rhetorical. Of course, God does what is good in his eyes. And Meishram Moshe. And I told you last week, you have to think of the Navi talking to Moshe. That's the imagery I gave you of that. Okay. So now let's come off of this for a minute and let's go back to Vaykira. And let's say the following. We go through, which we'll do. I don't say we're not going to do this, but we get to Aharemot, and we've finished with the 4 elements. We've dealt with the food and the childbirth and the sarat and the Zav and Zavah, and we turn to Yom Kippur. And we know why it turns to Kippur, right? Because that is where Aaron has to make kapara ba'ado, ub'ad beto, ub'ad kol in the whole nation, right? Because that's what brought about the destruction. And then you have what it means to be holy, Kedoshim to you, correct? After Haremot. And then realize that before and after Haremot come the 2 sexual sets of sexual prohibitions around it. But as Joey Namer so correctly pointed out, the 2 sexual prohibitions around Kiddushim, right? Remember, we referred to the first one as apodictic and the second one as casuistic, right? Because the second one is presented as case law. And the first one is just the law outright. But what are the words they have that come immediately upon the conclusion of those words? It says like this. Read verse, let's say, Sammy, read verse 20. Ve'el.
18?
Yeah, 18:20. Let him get it. Vayikra 18:20.
Eshet Amitecha
Amitecha
lo titen
shechobtecha.
lezara letom haba.
Right. Stop. The last law is the outright one about don't el eshet amitecha lo titen shechobtecha lezara letom haba. Just to have, that's called what do you call it? Having sex with yeah, right. Good. To another woman, right? To a married woman, yes. Now, what are the next words? Go ahead, read it, Sammy.
ומזרעך לא תיתן מעביד למולך ולא תחלל את שם אלוהיך אני אדוני.
And
Don't give your children to Molech.
Huh? You're talking about sexual privacy. Molech is child sacrifice, correct? Where'd that come from? Right? And wait. After it says that, it says V'etzakar lo tishkav, shkevei isha toebahi. It's a toeba. And then it goes bestiality, right? Of course, it's sticking molech in with bestiality now, right? And a woman should just be before them. Don't defile yourselves with all of these. Good. And V'lo ta'asu mikol these abominations.
Mhm.
Because that's what the people before you did, right? And it vomited them out. Now, after that, it's going to turn and say, "But if you know I'm Shemuel, they will call Bnei Israel Kedoshim to you." Good, and you all know that's the Ten Commandments, turning holiness in Ten Commandments. Now, when you finish all of that, there's going to be two sets of Kedoshim. It's going to be put forth in two parts, repeating the Ten Commandments twice, right? When you get to chapter 20, right, it says like this. וידבר אלוהים שלמות, ואל בני ישראל תאמר, איש מבני ישראל ומי הגר הגר בישראל, אשר ייתן מזעור למולך. Sound familiar?
You just added.
Eli, didn't you just say that?
Yes.
Now, what are you about to start reading? Do you remember? This is going to be the case law, sexual prohibitions, right? You finish reading the apodictic ones, you turn to Molech in the middle of it. Now you finish saying what Kedoshim is. Now you turn not at the end of it, but before you start the laws of promiscuity, of prohibited relations, and you open up with Molech, and it says, "Asher yiten mizaro lamolech mot yumat am haaretz yigemu." He gets stoned with the Avin. V'ani eten et panai be'ishahu. I'm going to look at this person, right? I'm going to my countenance towards him. V'chrati oto mekerev amor, ki mizarona talam molech leman tameh et mikdashi u'halin halel et shem kodeshi. This animal, right? V'im ha'lem ya'alimu am ha'aretz tenehem min ha'ishahu, from that guy. V'tito mizarola molech l'b'ti ha'mir toah. And if they let it go by. They say, he's he's just offering sacrifices, right? They let it pass, right? They don't do it themselves, but they let it pass. Yeah, alimu, right? They hide their eyes. ושמתי עיני את פניי באיש ההוא ובמשפחתו והכרעתי אותו ואת כל הזונים אחריו לזנות אחרי המולך בקרב עמם. ואני חושב תפנה על הרבות על ידוענים, then אובן ידועני, right? לזנות עיניהם ונתת פניי בנפש ההיא והכרעתי אותו מקרב עמו וקדישתם וייתם גלשים קדוש אני אלוהים לכם ושבתם חוקתם ושימו אותם אני אלוהים קדושים כי איש יקלל את אביו ואת אמו, a man who curses his mother and father, mot yumat, abit, right? Killed them abor. These are shady and af, and then it goes, right? So preceded it by cursing the mother and father. Now, keep this in mind and see where we turn. We're going to go to Emor, and once you get to Emor, you know we're going to be told. I'm going to cover all of Emor in about a minute now. All priests, all you priests, you can't go near graves anymore. The minute you do that, that's the end of what percent of their income, Morris? What percent of their income?
50%.
Okay, huge percent of their income comes from not being able to go graves, because graves are the number one source of income, right? Now, not only you can't go, even the bury the Kohen Gadol can't even bury. Can't go for anybody because he's the high priest. He's out completely. You can't get married to divorcees, right? You can't get married to not only you can't sleep with them, you can't marry a woman who isn't a virgin, correct? Or that's the Kohen Gadol. Right. All yes, skill. So now you turn to that, you finish with that, and then you go to the other biggest source of income. The middle one with the women you can't have relations with is, of course, covering Hofni and Pinhas fooling around with the Nashim Sovot Petahon Moed, right? So you covered that, right? Well, you gave two sections over to that and mixed it in with the abominations of Molech, right? It's the bottom of the barrel. Now you turn over here and say you can't marry any. You have to be pure blood. Listen to the word. How I'm going to say it. Pure bloods, right? Isn't that what it implies when I say you can't marry a woman who isn't for the Kohen Gadol? She has to be a virgin, literally. And the other guys.
Well, he means that she never
Go ahead, respond to me.
It's not genetic pure blood.
Right.
It's the state of mind. You can marry the same woman if she was still a virgin,
That's correct.
not a certain family or line.
So you are right. It's not a pure blood, but it's keeping the Kohanim away from a certain category of women, right? So you don't think of, like you say, it's true when I said the word, I was being a wise guy. It's not a pure blood in that sense, but it is keeping him pure, quote unquote, from having relations with certain kind of people, only producing children under certain conditions. Let's say it that way. That said,
which is Yechezkel in the Haftarah, he says that an almanah to a kohen,
That's
married
correct.
kohen.
That's
So
correct.
That's keeping it in the.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. I was going to tell you that before, and it's very well pointed out, because if you marry a kohen, then she could be an almanah, because now you're sort of keeping a pure blood, so to speak. With him, you could say it in spades. With the other one, it's the word pure blood is an overstatement, as you well caught it. You're right, but it implies being very, very discerning in who you're going to have relationships and produce children from. Let's say it that way. With your scale, it's even better, because that really implies no. It implies.
It's in the kohen realm already, so she's okay.
Yeah.
And keeps you from looking for loopholes.
If she
Well, of course.
That's
Right.
Then she-
Right. Right. Should I get divorced? He wants her. Yeah, get divorced. Right. Of course, that's the famous one that the rabbis point out. Right? What does it prevent the guy who decides if you can get divorced or not?
He's the marriage.
He likes her. He does. Yeah, you should get a divorce. Right. Right. So that in turn is going to turn to the other huge source of income, the holidays.
Right.
In the holidays, everybody comes. I've said this to you.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned before some of the parts of Shemuel, like triggering you to think about the Yud Gimel Midot and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Right after that, there's a thing that does say, "Asherav tichadun lo tishtachavet le'el echad, ki Adonai kana shemo el
Yeah.
hu pen tichrot berim b'shev haaretz v'zanu achrei Elohim." It's talking about lakachta v'lakachta mibenotav.
Right.
V'zanu benotav.
Where are you reading from? Why don't you tell everybody?
I'm reading from the Pesukim.
No, tell them what.
Kitisa, Parashat Kitisa.
Correct.
The end of Perek Lamed Aleph, but
Right.
it just
Right
struck
after the
me-
covenant is
but what
made.
struck me is you just said, what do we go right into afterwards? Is a very weird
The holiday.
summary of holidays.
Yes. Yes.
You were just going to say about holidays,
And then more. He's doing it more.
right?
Yeah.
So it's you see.
I'm sorry if I don't say it. I don't remember. ברוך אתה אלוהי מלך העולם שגרשם צבאנו הספקת רומני יום 30 יום לעומר שהם 4 שבועות ו5 ימים. Is that right? I hope so. Right. Take a haircut on Wednesday morning. Linda told me she doesn't want me to take a haircut. She tells me I like it. You heard what I said? So Linda tells me, don't take a haircut. You look younger when you have a lot of hair on your head. I said, okay, I'll tell him just to trim it. She goes, yeah. Right.
There's not the sequence of what we just did, and then going into holidays can't be.
No, it's not.
Okay.
But I'll deal with it with you only. And it's a very important question, and Morris will tell you the answer in spades, right? But hold off on it,
Okay.
only because I don't want you to lose track of this one.
Go.
That the next huge source of income is going to be the holidays. On the holidays, I've told you this many times. What is it like when a guy goes even if he's not very wealthy, when he goes to Israel for the bar mitzvah? He's got money in his pocket, and when he sees the conman at the kotel, the
There
conman,
you go.
yeah, he gives that money because he's in a giving thing. And if a rabbi walks,
The conman to Machane Yehuda, it
Yeah.
smells tea and spice.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the new guy.
right. Okay, so
All your money.
they're open to it. and he has the cash available. That's the important one. When he comes to the bar mitzvah, he already has the money available with him. It's said he didn't only come with the money for the hotel or da 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 da. He came with the cash that he's prepared to spend it on, but in a good way.
That's just.
That guy's not a low life. That guy's a good guy. If he sees poor people, he's going to give them money. If he sees this, he's in a giving mood. He wants to do the right thing. And the priest is that's the carnival barker when he sees the what is it called when he sees the
Mark, I don't know.
the mark, what's the term,
Pigeon.
the suckers, right? They're coming and he's gonna just suck them dry for everything. That's right. That's what they're called. Umem Malei Matsulamo. It's the 73rd Mizmor. They squeeze them. Right? It's talking about the priest squeezing them for everything they've got.
It's effectively a built-in economic stimulus program. Every time they come in with cash, injecting it into the economy.
Right.
The
Well,
local-
it's supposed to be in a
Yeah,
good way,
that's
but
what
these
I'm
are
saying.
thieves.
It's an economic
Good.
stimulus, yeah.
Yeah, bring the money to Jerusalem.
So that
The city's successful.
Exactly. That's what
Exactly.
you have
Yes, it's a
built in.
built-in welfare system
We said
because the people.
First day of the month was the best time, the welfare check showed
Well,
up.
retail store.
I used to ask my brother-in-law Nat, he should rest in peace. My brother-in-law is Morris Stoick's father, right? You know that.
I used to sell.
So I used to say, well, like, Joy Davis here, he'll tell you. I used to say, the day they got the checks, I said, are you serious? What do you mean the day? He goes, no, that day. And I go, that day? He goes, that day. They get the check
The second day
and
of the money.
they come straight to the store
Yeah.
because people who are not wealthy live hand to mouth. You get the money and it's subsistence living. You get the money, you go straight to the grocery store. You get the money, everything you got to do. So you come to the store to buy stuff that you need that day. So this
COVID, they were going crazy.
Yeah.
It's like they were getting checks, money.
Oh, the money was flowing.
They didn't want it to end.
I
Yeah.
used to sell in
That was
Newark,
the
New
best
Jersey.
one.
And they didn't even have to watch the customers. There's no problem. They all had money. At the end of the month, they really had to watch them. They had no money. They would steal.
Oh, they're
Or at the end of the month, they knew that.
interesting. So it really is a reaction. So that was the big income time, and the people are ready, and they would take them for everything they can. Now, the closing words of the priestly structure, you can. I skipped where it says that you can't bring blemished animals. Of course, the blemished animals are where they check line because the guy comes with a $10,000 donation and he brings them $500 worth of sheep that are the low life sheep, and the priest says he has to say how much they're worth. So instead of saying they're worth $100 a piece, he says they're worth $1,000 a piece. He brought there, it's 10 grand. He gets, of course, his cut. Doesn't well take care of you. And then he gets credit for having given. Meantime, he gave a bunch of junk, and he couldn't care less. And he looks like a great hero. And the priest is corrupt to the core. Now, when you get to this one, the Torah comes along, takes him out of it also. Can't bring blemishes, you can't this, you can't switch, can't thing, you can't go to graves. And now, what else can't you do on the holidays? When a guy wants to serve, he has to go to some grass, some palm branches, which if you don't have any money at all, if you have poverty, you can get as many palm branches as you want to make as many baskets as you want with them. They're all over Israel. You want a piece of fruit in Israel, you walk. Just take a piece of fruit off the trees. It was common, in fact, you'll go to a tree and take off an orange or a lemon, whatever, any beautiful piece of fruit. You take it, and then the other things, grass. It's not grass. It's leaves that you find by the side of the water. There's billions. It's like saying the bushes in the backyard, like that. It's like saying go take some bushes, take a thing, and now that's how you serve God. Now you knock them out of the box because they would say, "You give me money, you have a etrog, you got to pay me $200 for this etrog, not 10 cents, which is what an etrog is worth, right? 10 cents is worth. The whole purpose of it was the fruit. You can get a very beautiful piece of fruit right off of a tree, right? Not looking at it, the thing with for 400 times. Take any, if you see, do you ever see a nice orange tree and how beautiful it looks? Take an orange off it. It's gorgeous, beautiful. So it's so plentiful. It's so plentiful, and of course free. By the way, free even to the poor people. The poor people had access. Yeah, they had access to that. So now you've knocked them out of the picture. So I just wanted to do that quick review so you're aware of the fact that when you get to the end of Imod, then you're finished with the holidays. Immediately upon the conclusion of it, you turn to turning on the lights. You go back to the beginning. When did the problem happen? At dedication day.
Yes.
Now, at dedication day, what were you about to do? Right? They dedicated and they saw Kibud Hashem, and it was spectacular. And at the peak, the graph is all the way at the top. Everything comes crashing down. Now here we are back here, and you turn on the lights, and you put the food out on the table. That's chapter 24, verse 1. And then verse 5, salt afita, you make 12 loaves of bread. That's when what is the first thing you do when you come into the house? You turn on the lights, and you open up the kitchen and the oven. You invite people over for your Hanukkah Bayit, and they come in, the house is lit up, you serve them food, and of course that's supposed to be the imagery over here. You're being invited, the 12 tribes, the 12 loaves, being invited to come into the Mishkan, and to we're going to say, of course, it means get prophecy and all the things that go along with it. Right at that juncture, where you now turned on the lights, right? I'd like you to be aware that it says these words. If you give me a second.
Also, what happens in the Halotecha is at the end of the whole dedication, you have the lighting of the menorah as well.
Also, it tells you, right?
That's the actual lighting.
That's actually, yeah.
That was-
It's 3 times that it's going to come up. Right. That's correct. So now, so now it says like this, right at the conclusion of you turn on the lights and you put the food out. What's the very next thing that happens? Joey Namath should be the one who says it. What do you have? What is it? Go ahead, Joe. You have, you have if you remember, in the 4 elements, it turns after the kosher food to Yom HaShemini Yimol Besar L'Atorah. There are 13 occurrences of the word, no mistake. The 8th day is said 13 times in the Torah, right? The last one is going to be in the Midbar about Shemini Aseret, right? Here, you're going to get the other Shemini, the earlier Shemini Aseret one. You're going to have said Shemini Aseret, Yom HaShemini, the Zab gets purified on Yom HaShemini, and the Zabad gets purified on Yom HaShemini. 3 of them are going to have occurred here in our book we were talking about, because we talked about the child, right? Brit Milah. Then we talked about the Zab, Yom HaShemini, purification. Zabab, Yom HaShemini. And now the holidays, it's the last thing. It's the last statement about the holidays. You introduce an idea that was not known in the text, and it says it in the text because, Joey is correct for me to point this out to you. Look at the words that are said at the end of in verse 39. Morris Ronnie, read it.
Right.
Chapter 23, verse 39. After it says everything about the holiday, all of a sudden it says, but what? You finished. Go ahead.
יום לחודש שביעי בעושריכם את תבואת הארץ, תחוגו את חג אלוהי 7 ימים, ביום הראשון שבתון, ביום השמיני
Stop.
שבת.
Oh, there you go. And then you bring pity, Etz Hadad, and so on and so forth, right? So you have Yom HaShemini, and then you open up house. Good? You with me? And now, all of a sudden, Joey, what do you call what's going to happen in Pasuk 10?
A narrative.
A narrative.
Two narratives.
All of a sudden, you're going to get a narrative. When was the last time only A.B. Malin, nobody talked down? When was the last time you had a narrative in Vaykira? And the only other time in the whole book that you have a narrative?
In the beginning, we talked to Moshe.
Nope.
No, Adam and Abihu.
Adam and Abihu. That's a narrative. It's a story all of a sudden, right?
Mhm.
The last time you had a story was when the high priest's two sons die from their transgressions of bringing Esh Zarah
The eighth day.
on the 8th day. Right? Hello? Nobody realized it till Joey said it. I want the people to realize it. Yom HaShemini, the whole story starts on Yom HaShemini, right?
Mhm.
So you go from Yom HaShemini. No, we didn't say it. I left that one out. I said the child is B'nai Bilal on Yom HaShemini. I said the two Taharas are two Yom HaSheminis, and I said this Yom HaShemini. But there's another one, the one that started the whole thing. And you know how you know that? Because it says Ubei Yom HaShemini Kara da 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 da. It goes out of its way to say the entire incident and the narrative that all took place on Yom HaShemini. Now we conclude by saying an introductory thing about but you bring the minim and and Yom Shemini it ends. By the way, how many words in the law?
Maybe.
That's right. Lee remembers well. Oh, you didn't remember. You remembered, right?
Well, which one?
Oh, you were being
1:30.
Tell me from where to where, from the bed, the beginning of the.
start. Yeah, I'll tell you where to start. I'll let you know. After the word start counting. But that's not the law. The but is not the law.
Before that,
On the-
this is it's an ending pasuk.
It's a concluding words.
Right.
Stop. End of law. Now, but now start counting. Go ahead, count.
Wow.
Okay, you want to count?
No, till when?
I trust sleep.
Till the end of the law.
Till the end of the law, till Elohim?
Yeah, read it. You'll see yourself. You don't want to count. Okay.
They used to make this
Bible. We need a Bible.
and he's like, I 12 guys open, and we had 14 different.
Ani Adonai Elohim. It's the word. It says. Count it if you don't believe me. Oh wait, he's counting. Let him count because
Well, they're counting. Why is, side point, I don't think you wanna maybe go into this right now, but in Devarim, when they're listing the holidays, they don't mention Shemini Atzeret.
it sure doesn't. Not at all.
Because it's.
It also doesn't mention Rosh Hashanah.
I,
It also doesn't mention Kippur.
but the omission of Shemini Atzeret for me is
More blatant to you.
more, not blatant, but more
Yep.
meaningful
It's not the
And
of an omission.
And where is Bnei Hadar?
It's not there either.
No.
it's not the omission there, it's the inclusion.
Kapot Tebarim. Where's the whole thing?
Fine. Rosh Hashanah, what I can do without anyway, from the general context of Shalosh Pamim Rosh Hashanah, but the fact that it's just not mentioned at all there and mentioned here.
6 hour. Did you count?
Yes, 80.
80 words.
I couldn't.
So now.
There's a close. I wanted to see where.
The words milavad are the concluding words. You do this, as Soli correctly pointed out. Milavad this, milavad, done.
And yeah, Shem Lachem is part of the law. Like,
Yes, 100%, 100%. Yeah. Leman you do etc. And you stop. Immediately upon that, you've now finished with the entire presentation of Vaykira.
Mhm.
When you finish with the entire presentation, you're going to get a narrative, which is going to remind you of the other narrative, which started on Yom HaShemini, and you just finished reading the Yom HaShemini Priya Sadar law this second. And now there's another stark thing. It's opening day again. Turn on the lights, put out the bread. When you say turn on the lights, put out the bread, it's like we're starting again. Like everything is ready to roll again. Back to where the other narrative. The other narrative opened up on dedication day. Now you're back to opening up the lights. By the way, this tells you turn on the lights every day, but it's This is like a first time opening up the lights, right?
But okay, so after that, you're opening the lights, you're opening the bread, and then you end, even the Pesukim right before the narrative is B'yom HaShabbat, B'yom HaShabbat.
Yeah.
The seventh day, we're setting you up to be like, okay, whatever happens the next day is.
If you only know how important what you just now said is, and I'll tell you how important it is. The amount that, if you want me to go, I'm going to tell you a parenthetical, critical thing.
70.
Yes, there are 70 occurrences of Shabbat in the Torah. Forget that. How many of them are there in Vaykira? The great majority are in Vaykira. You just now got inundated with Shabbats. Because it's going to sort of culminate with B'yom Shabbat, and then you're going to have the narrative of the Mikallel. Stop. Everybody pay good attention now, because I'm going to use you as a good segue as follows. This story says there are two guys having a fight. They're punching each other in the street. So when you think of two guys punching each other in the street, you don't have very high level of, you don't think too highly of the guys who are having a swing out in the street. That story, in the middle of it, there's a half-breed.
Right.
His mother is Jewish. She's Yisraelite, and her name is Shalomit Bat Divri. Now, when he curses, it doesn't even say he curses and who he curses. It says he cursed Hashem. You know how we say Hashem today?
Yeah.
How do we say Hashem? Because we don't say God's name.
Yeah.
We just say Hashem. We go the name.
Right.
Baruch Hashem means blessed is the name. Lee, why do we say Hashem? Because it's respectful. You don't throw away God's name loosely, So the guy can go Baruch Hashem all day long, which they do, to a point of absurdity. They got it from here, right? So he's Mikallel, right? Hashem. It says that explicitly uses the word, right? Now, of course, over here it's not using it because it's in the narrative. They won't even say it.
Yeah.
That you have to think of this. That the Navi, when he's writing it down, says, "I'm not going to write down he cursed, and then I'm gonna put words between, and then put the word Yud Ke Vav Ke." I'm not going to say that. I won't even say that. I'll only say that he cursed, and then I'll say the name, because can't say it, but this guy did it. So you know what the people who are standing around do? They go, "What do we do with this guy?"
Oh, yeah.
Now, when they go, "What do we do with this guy?" The words, if you look at the words, in verse 12, Lefrosh Lahim al pi Adonai, right? They don't know what to do. They're so stupefied. It's like, imagine you go to a shul, right? And a guy gets up in the knis and he starts using 4-letter vile words, and he says God's name in the synagogue repeatedly. You know what the shul will do? What do we do with this guy? You don't even know what to do with the guy. It's so violent. Throw him out of shul is not enough. You know what I mean? What are you going to give him his kodacha? You got to throw him out of the community. You got to throw him out of the country. What are you going to do with the guy? There are, of course, guys in the audience saying, "Kill him," because remember, he stood there violently saying something that's so vile that you can't even contemplate it. Good. Now, since you said B'yom Shabbat, remember this? This law this story, this narrative is surrounded by, of the 70 Shabbats, I'm just guessing, 52 of them. It's not. It's 50. It's a zillion of them. Why? Because all of the laws of the holidays are Shabbats, right? And the word came up a lot of times before, and right after the narrative, what is it going to say?
Behar, Peshat Behar. Peshat Behar.
I know, but what is it going to? It's all right, exactly. It's going to be Shabbat. It's going to be in spades, right? It comes at Shabbat, Shabbaton, with Shemini Aseh, with Pikipur, Shabbat, Shabbaton, Shabbat, Shabbat. A lot, the majority of the occurrences. Now, wait, this story, you can't help but say, it reminds you of the story that's going to come in chapter 15 of Bimidbar, when there's a Mekoshesh Itzim B'Yom Shabbat. And they see him doing it and they go,
What do we do?
what do we do with this guy? And the words, of course, the hyperlinks are not they're not midrash hyperlinks. They're direct hyperlinks because it quotes these words. They don't know what to do with him, lefrosh. They take him and they say, what are you going to do with the guy? And they end up his capital punishment.
And Moshe has to ask him both of these. What do we do also?
What do we do with this?
Moshe has to ask.
Remember, by the way, that this one is going to be followed. The 80 words that we just now read about, that you counted, right after the law, intrinsically tied up with the law. I hope you're all following me because I'm telling you very important things. Intrinsically tied up with the story, which we're skipping the narrative for a second, saying it's all Shabbats. It's surrounded by Shabbat. How many times does the word Shabbat come up in Bimidbar? Just in the Mekoshesh Itzim, and that's it. Except for in Pinchas, it says you bring the korban on Shabbat. What? It's only a necessary statement made because in Pinchas you're going to say the different things. So it says you're going to say on Shabbat. No, it's going to say Shabbat.
Rosh Chodesh, we said, yes, Rosh Chodesh, Yom HaShabbat, right?
Yeah, that one. Yes. Oh, you mean which one do you say? Yeah.
That's the one.
So you're going to have Shabbat. So that's it. Then there's Mekoshesh, and then you don't see it again. You don't see it before. The blatant, Sammy, it's a blatant omission in all of them, but except for the story of the Mekoshesh, see, for all intents and purposes. And over here, this one is listen, it's like a blatant insertion. B'yom Shabbat, right? Now, immediately tied into this is the law. It's called the law of Ayin Tahat Ayin. It's referred to as Ayin Tahat Ayin. When it's referred to Ayin Tahat Ayin, listen carefully. You never mean eye for an eye. In there, as it's going to be in the Mekoshesh Itzim story, you have to take my word for it now, we have no time. Torah had one law. Both of them are going to say one law for all. In this one, after you say Ayin Tahat Ayin and Shen Tahat Shen and Mum Tahat, right, etc., it says like this. It says exactly.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You count it. It's exactly 80 word law. So you're going to get an 80 word law for in Shemini's Aseret for the Sukkah, and you're going to get an 80 word law, and the words are going to be, as Sammy, since you're looking sharply, read verse 22.
משפט אחד יהיה לכם כגר כאזרח יהיה כי אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You counted it, and that's where it ended. That's the 80th word. That's correct. And you can count it, Ike. I see Ike's. You can count it. Okay? But you know what it's saying? One law for all.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you're rightly, doesn't matter if you're an alien,
Or half-breed.
and it doesn't matter if you're a citizen.
Or half-breed.
Whoever you are, one law for all. Good? Everybody with me now?
Yeah.
You got the picture of the 80-word law before, the 80-word law after.
Yeah.
And how do you say one law for all in the best way, where it's so silly to say that they once used to take a guy's eyes out? Of course, Tachamim see this as an idiomatic expression that, well, there are people who did that. Certainly there were crazies who did that, right? The Arabs do it till today, probably, when they cut off a guy's hand for stealing or something. But the point being, how do you best idiomatically say you have to compensate the guy, no matter who he is, where he is, and it has to be a perfect compensation to the best of your ability? You know how you say that? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, meaning meaning that's how you use it, the idiomatic expression to refer to, and the Hachamim go, well, of course that's what it means. You got to figure out what he would have made, figure out how much his arm would have been worth cost.
Reciprocity.
I'm sorry?
Reciprocity.
Exactly. And the best way to say it is to use the expression of Ein Tahat Ein. There's no better way. But of course, you put it in the 80 words, and of course, that's the covenant. Of course, that's what's wanted from you. Now that you saw that
Equalizer, right?
the equalizer, Shabbat's the equalizer, exactly. So the Shabbat, you're good.
I'm sorry.
It's in the paper. It's all in the paper. The Shabbat being the equalizer surrounds this because it's the ultimate law of the equalizer. How do you say it? You say Mishpat Ehad. And Mikoshesh Yitzim is going to say the words Torah Hat. You listening?
Yeah.
Stop. Now that that's the case, follow me carefully now. Why at this juncture do we tell a story about a guy who we don't know what to do with the guy, and we can't even write the words of what he did? And when we tell over the narrative, you know what we say? He's a half-breed. You know why we say he's a half-breed? By the way, Eli, I could see you. It's great. So, where are you located?
Miami still.
I thought so. That's what I'm saying. I'm a little jealous. So,
That's okay.
so now, why do we have this guy being two things? You can't even say who he cursed because the writer can't even say it, and you can't write a story about the following. I'm making up a story now, so you get the idea. You could never tell me a story about in the shuls when they were fighting, where a guy in front of the Torah started cursing Hashem in the middle of the fight. You can't even, you could look back, make believe you have all the records of all the synagogues in the last 2,000 years. You can't find a place where the two guys, one of them did that. But if he's an Egyptian, he doesn't have he's not really brought up in your environment. So you ready? Maybe you could say it. Maybe, because he can't even write that it happened. And they still say, after his father's Egyptian, they still say, what did I say, Aiki? What do you do with this guy? They can't even believe he did it. The fact that he's a half-breed isn't sufficient. They're taken aback. They lock the guy up. By the way, as a side point, you know what everybody who saw this has to do? Put their hand on his head.
Yes.
What is that reminding you, Joey Namer? The Se'il Azazel. You put your hands and the sins go out into Galut, right? They flip the coin.
Also Eglar Ufa.
And so Eglar Ufa, correct? Having the responsibility.
They're responsible.
The Kohanim.
Yeah, but it doesn't say they put their hands on his head and do
The
anything.
Kohen says v'samach et yadav on the animal.
The animal is correct. All of those are true. Wait. No, this is all correct. I said it. It's very important, but I don't want you to lose what I'm about to tell you. I told you a few minutes ago that all of the entire structure, we have first of all, I have a 100-page commentary on all of this, and 100-page commentary on how this story and the Mikosheshim are intrinsically woven together, and where it comes up in the make believe this. We're skipping tons of information, okay? Make believe. Yeah. But what I want you now we'll leave all that aside. A lot of things being skipped. We got all the key elements, Sammy, all the key elements. Good?
Yeah.
Right? Where do I tell you the narrative? You go. The last time I heard the narrative, and the only other time in the whole book, is going to be when the two sons died. They were Kohanim. Now I told you all the new laws of the Kohanim. The restructuring of the whole priesthood, and I tell you a story about. You ready? You remember the words from earlier when we were reading Shemuel? Ki Mikallel lahem banav lo ki ha bahem. His sons were Mikallel, right? Now, the Navi comes in the story before Shemuel. There's a prophet who comes and says what's going to happen. And he's called the Navi, right? And he comes and he says much more than that. He says, God says, Halil Ali, Halil Ali. God says, God, not God forbid me from accepting. God says, God forbid, but God can't say God forbid. So he goes, Halil Ali, from saying such a thing, right? Why? Because they took me lightly and they didn't honor me, and so on and so forth. I have no time to tell you all of that. I just want you to hear the words. Mikallel is going to come there, and it's going to come. You right? They right, and now you read it back. So you know what it's telling you. Of course, these two narratives are telling you. You know what the priesthood was doing? This.
Basically, cursing.
What do you mean? They were cursing God?
No.
Yes. Yes. You know what Yirmiyah says in Mizmor 55 as an example? These are my friends that I grew up with. You should take them down to the grave alive. You know what he says that? Yechu Hayim She'ula. Reminds you of somebody. Take them, who goes down to the grave alive? Korah, if you remember.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Yechu, you know why? And you know what he says? There's blood on their hands. Yeah. He doesn't say they weren't nice guys and they were checking line. They have blood on their hands. And they do. Because remember, when they're doing this, you know that there's no welfare society. And you know that if women who come from broken homes or children or sick people, they rely on the religious center to be the ones to literally save their lives. Mm-hmm. That's right. Mm-hmm. And if you do not come through for them, they die. Mm-hmm. And if they compromise that, they're outright murderers. And anyway, they tried to kill him outright. And they threaten him, we're going to have you bumped, we're going to bump you off. You keep talking like that, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. They don't mean we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. We're going to have you done. And then remember, it says they try to kill him and God lets him know. He finds out that they're trying to kill him and he escapes death numerous times, right? So this story is no accident popping up all of a sudden as the next narrative, because it's expecting you, like I told you in the earlier part of the night, that if you read Shemuel and you think and you see it says, oh, Suf, oh, Ramatayim Sofim, oh, Ephraim, these are the best of the best of the best, right? Elkanah, right? Elkanah, her father-in-law is Rahum. She's Hanun. Elkanah is a husband. You're expected. I'm being a wise guy. I've said a lot of times you're expected. No one does it. To look at it and to catch these signals and to realize that there's a much more important thing being told. Similarly, over here, you're supposed to ask, huh? Why are you bringing this up, this narrative? Oh, there's only two of them. Oh, this is after the other one. Oh, you just finished talking about priests. Why are you talking about half-breeds? You ready? Lee, you think, no. It's a good opportunity where you said before when you caught me on the purebloods, you would never say it about a guy who's a priest who comes from the highest level of upbringing, right? The priest walks into the room, everybody gets up. He's the one who you show the ultimate reverence for. He's the highest regard, the highest respect. And now, at the end of all of that, I told you a story about a half-breed who you can't believe curses. And you're supposed to go, are you telling me that you're really talking about the priests? That you just tore the whole thing down and said they can't go to graves and work everything, the holidays? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They were the ones, now listen carefully, that were Mikallel v'lo kihabahim. And are you saying these are the same ones? Well, you know, the other one was the priest whose two sons died on the same day. You know, this story is about the two sons who died on the same day. You know, it said, you know, it said the laws of kashrut. You know that they were eating whatever they wanted. You know that the similarities between the two were overwhelming. overwhelming. There's 100-page commentary we have on showing that. Take that and recognize that that's, of course, what you, the observant reader, are expected to realize. That the whole Vaykira and this whole
It's an
structure, you are at the end of the book. What'd you say?
It's an anti-priest polemic.
That's correct. And you know what the next thing's going to be? The curses, the blessings, the curses. Behar and Bilkotai, goodbye. Right? You have Kirat Iman Mesquite.
Shabbat.
Yeah, of course. And then you're going to have the thing about the you broke Shabbat, right?
Yeah.
Right? There, it's for him, right? Right. And what did you not do? You didn't observe the Shemitah. You didn't, right? Those are the words, right? Right. So therefore, the key element of the second bit, Kilalot, not the ones in Devarim, that driving force of it is going to be that you, in fact, did not observe Shabbat, which is, in the words, just to quote them to you, right? When it says, and it'll be satisfied in 26:43. Because they did not observe Shabbat, right? And they compromised all the equality, because remember Shabbat stands for the equalizer. So you've been given a picture over here in Vaykira, and you come to the curses which emphasize different things than the curses of Devarim. And it's talking about the factors that bring about destruction when the religious establishment becomes corrupt to the core. When in fact, you know what they were doing? That story that I just told you, right? Moshe Rabbeinu will turn around and say to you, I'm talking about them. I'm talking about the guys that brought about the end of Shiloh and the guys that brought about the end of the nation and the Beit HaMikdash. And I'm telling you that it's in the third book because that's the core of what happened over here. Kiddushim, they didn't know the first thing about the Ten Commandments. They told everybody being holy is because you touch my hand and I give you a blessing and your things are going to be good with you. The whole thing became corrupted to the core. And the story that he tells you is reflective of all of that in spades, and he means it. He's not just being what's the word when you're over the top? He's hyperbolic. It's not hyperbolic. He means that's what they did, and he means it in the most serious of ways. But now that that's said, were they good priests? Of course they were. Yehoiada was an amazing priest, amazing game changer in the South. What he did when he got rid of Atalia, and he put Yehoash. His name was Yehoiada, and the king's name is Yehoash. And then the ant that saved his life was Yehosheba. Everybody's name is Yud Kevav, right? Everybody, all the individuals, they were great priests. But you know what? He was one guy. And it wasn't the Kohen Gadol, and it wasn't the rest. That was 150 to 200 years before the destruction. In other words, that disease is building slowly but surely to the point where it becomes rotten. At a certain point in time, listen carefully. At a certain point in time, you try and clean the house, as did Yehoash, as did Yoshiyahu, with the same words. Let's fix the temple, and he cleans out the Avodah Zarah and the black magic from the temple, but it doesn't work. In the four elements, the last one, Kitavol Aretz, and you find Starat in the Bayit, and you take the stones out, and you fix it, and you replaster it, and you try everything. If it doesn't work, you got to tear it to the ground, to shreds, and you got to take it, Chutz Lamachaneh. You can't have it.
Bring new one.
I gave you just now, for me personally, one of the best classes I've ever given in my life. Because I gave you a perspective.
Agreed.
Agreed. It's the perspective is overwhelming, and I covered it in an hour and 15 minutes. Literally covered the whole picture. I gave you everything just now, from beginning to end. The nation, its things, the holidays, and I so to speak. Just
100
say
pages.
you turned this. I didn't leave a stone unturned just now.
So I'm just realizing in Kitisa, Shabbat comes right before the Egel. Is that also part of this?
Of course,
Right before the-
of course, of course,
And then
of
right.
course, of course. As I said, I have a lot more to tell
Excuse
Sammy about what's going on over there. I said
Excuse me.
I didn't want to break off into that because that's a separate. It's a separate subject to talk about.
And you did it in 80 minutes.
Yeah, I did it in 80
80
minutes. You didn't have any
And Ronnie, last week it was about Kaved. Last week was about Kaved, and this week it's about Kal. The
That's
two
correct.
opposites.
That's correct.
The
All right, a lot more to be said here. I'm ending off at this point only because from here on in, any one subject that's going to come up is going to take an hour. But let Morris ask his question.
No, I was gonna say that the Ish Elohim that comes to Eli.
He says Paro.
No, he says, I gave you to eat the Ishe, whatever, you know what I'm talking about here?
Yes.
Mem Mizbechi.
Yeah, you're the guys who could do it and eat.
Yeah, but that's gonna be the subject that comes up right before the Mikallel.
Right.
That's the words before. Vayital alechem lazkara Ishe Ladonai.
Right.
Right? And that's what
He's telling them, I gave you that.
and now the last thing he's gonna say is they're gonna lechol pat lechem.
Right. Now they're going to come and say, Sefaheni. Of course, the word Sefaheni means to give me a little piece of bread. But Sammy, what is Sefaheni? Hofni and Pinhas. And the word is Sefaheni. Your future, the future, who's the future? They're going to say Sefaheni. You can't do better than put the names Hofni and Pinhas into one word and come up with the word Sefaheni, which means give me a little piece of a morsel of bread to keep me going, to remind you of the abuses that they did, and now you're going to end up for eternity you can never be priests again. By the way, for eternity, that's for eternity. Now you can't be for eternity. You're out for good. Once you cross a line with Hilul Hashem, when it comes to God, you're done. There's no coming back. He says, Adolam, I gave it to you forever. Now I'm taking it away forever. You're done. You've crossed a line that causes so much suffering and so much suffering to the nation, to the poor, to the weak, to the privileged, to the people who are sincere about religion, people who really care. You've caused so much damage that it's.
And what's the tikkun of Bnei Eli? The tikkun of Bnei Eli.
Same with Moshe Rabbeinu.
There is no tikkun.
Well, you tell us.
The tikkun of Bnei Eli is to serve the kahal.
That's it. Just to serve the cow, to be the guy that takes care of the of making sure there's enough seats for the people to sit in, so to speak, and to make sure that the shul is open and the lights are on, or something like that. I would say, yeah. The Leviim are turned into singers in the temple in the Vidayamim, because now they're serving a function, but it's not a function of people walking around with robes and gold chains on their necks and being bowed down to by the people. They're assistants. They're the true servants of the facility, right? Yeah.
One other thing.
All
The
right.
first thing that happens in the Shemuel story is that he tells her, until when you're gonna drink, right?
Right. And Matai Tishtakarim.
Tishtakarin.
Yeah.
But the first law that comes after this,
Yain v'shechar
Yeah,
al-tish.
that's you put that one in.
Yeah, of course. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
more to be said.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good
Thank
one.
you so
Pleasure.
much.
Good to
Thank
see you.
Ana
Pleasure to see
mamash.
you.
Ana mamash.
Wonderful. It's great. Pleasure to see you. Pleasure. Mars, stop it and stop this. How do I stop the recording here?
You could just end it.
That's the head.
And